Well, a marvellous response from the fans here at Wembley, and the right man doing the job here today. Now, a football match about to happen. Jimmy and Bob, what's your reading of it? What do you think is going to happen today, Jim?
Very close. Teams know each other very well. I wouldn't be surprised to see it go to extra time. In predicting, I'm worried about Everton's luck so far, which may even last today. But at the end of the day, I have to say that Liverpool have a touch more class and something extra, and I can't really decide against them.
Well, they had a touch more class last year. Got beaten. Bob?
I think I'm just going to go for that funny feeling that I have about Everton today, Des. I really do feel that, as Jim said, they've had a tremendous amount of luck, but it's not just luck that wins cup finals. There is a luck element within it. There's a lot of skill involved in it, and like Wimbledon showed last year, if you pose a little bit of a problem there, whoever poses the biggest problem, I'm just going to have that sneaky feeling about Everton.
We're all looking forward to it. I'm sure you are at home as well. It's proving so far to be a magnificent day here at Wembley. Indeed, let's hope the match does live up to that. And now, your match commentators, Trevor Brooking and John Motson.
Thank you very much, Desmond. And the warmth of the occasion reflected, I think, in two ways. Of lesser importance, perhaps, the temperature, which is something like 85 degrees down on the pitch. But the warmth and sincerity in the crowd has already come across. I suppose it would be fair to say that over the last 5 weeks we've all examined our own consciences as to whether we should really be here today, and there was no easy answer. But neither should any of us attempt to speak for those bereaved by the Hillsborough disaster. And I do know that among those who see returning to football as part of their painful rehabilitation are some of the parents of those who were lost in the tragedy. I know of one family personally. Mother and father are here today with two boys who went with their son and actually survived the tragedy in which he suffered. That's how one family have tried to come to terms with their devastating loss. There are, of course, 90 other stories, some along similar lines, some are different. I appreciate that, and we respect their views equally. And this, Trevor Brooking, is a moment I think you could tell us what it's like down there, because you've walked out in these very circumstances.
Well, these are probably the most nerve-wracking from a player's point of view. At this stage, you know, the butterflies are going. You just want to walk out on the pitch. Although, looking at Kenny Dalglish there, you wouldn't think so, whether he looks quite relaxed. And, of course, most of the lads know each other so well. Neville Southall there, showing his shin pads as usual. Hasn't got any mud on his legs at the moment, I'm sure. With the weather as it is today, he's not likely to either. But it really is this moment, I think you just want to walk out on the pitch, and I can say there's no better moment for any player than when you go out of that tunnel and the ground erupts and the supporters acclaim you, and hopefully then, though, in those next few seconds, the nerves do evaporate it.
Obviously, it is a cup final, but no doubt the players, too, are keenly aware of the circumstances of this particular match, which they're now walking out to play. And in that emotional climate, I don't think you need any more words from us for the time being. Togetherness is the key word here. These pictures being beamed all around the world. To the United States, to Hungary, to Iraq, to all the countries who normally tune in for the English FA Cup final. But they will all appreciate that this year is different. Colin Harvey, the manager of Everton, in his second season, would dearly love to lift a major trophy, which would be his first after succeeding Howard Kendall. And he is taking the Duke down the line of players, while the captain, Kevin Ratcliffe, is introducing his players to the Duchess. A word there for Kevin Sheedy, who's passed a fitness test, as indeed is the man next to him, Pat Vanden Hauwe. We'll give you a final check on the teams in just a moment. That's Pat Nevin, the will-o'-the-wisp winger. Graham Sharp, who some people believe could be highly influential. Tony Cottee, the £2 million man there, who's got a bit to prove. Paul Bracewell made a marvellous recovery from injury in the last 2 or 3 years. And the two substitutes, Ian Wilson and Stuart McCall, who got the vote over Wayne Clark. Now, those Everton supporters look as though they're going to be out-shouted unless they're careful for fairly obvious reasons, which you can hear in the background. Ronnie Whelan is the captain of Liverpool this season. It remains that way in spite of Alan Hansen's return to the side. And Kenny Dalglish, who played himself in the last All-Merseyside FA Cup final 3 years ago, now takes His Royal Highness down the line. Steve McMahon, an important figure in the midfield today, no doubt. John Barnes, perhaps due a really good cup final here after 2 disappointing days with Watford and then with Liverpool. There's Alan Hansen. It's a bonus for him to be back, really, after his injury problems. Steve Staunton, the youngest player in the cup final at 20. Gary Ablett next to him. Then Steve Nicol, the Football Writers' Player of the Year. And Bruce Grobbelaar, quite a personality. Referee Joe Worrell, who comes from Warrington, a mere 25 miles from Goodison Park and Anfield, and he has refereed 2 derbies before, one of them earlier this season, in fact, which was a 1-1 draw. And linesman, who I mentioned, Peck and Smith, and referee, the 4th official, Jeff Winter from Middlesbrough. See Graham Kelly, the FA secretary, out there as well, making his way down the line at the back. And I was interested in his comments about away supporters and the possible monitoring of them as a way of solving the problems we're all aware of yesterday. A restrained and dignified figure, Graham, in his first year as the FA chief executive, had a lot to endure.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
And what happens now will speak for itself.
Will you kindly stand in company with their Royal Highnesses for a 1-minute silence in memory of the victims of the Hillsborough disaster? Magnificent. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen.
Just reintroducing you here to the players I'm sure by now you're pretty familiar with. We'll have a definitive check on the actual lineups in just a second. But these are faces that you'll have seen many times over the past 2 or 3 seasons. And you'll see them out there again today more than once. So many international personalities in these 2 lineups. Liverpool attempting the double yet again. Succeeded 3 years ago, failed last year here against Wimbledon. But Everton know that their season hinges on this match. And Everton today are playing in the FA Cup final for the 11th time, equalling the record held by Arsenal and Newcastle. Liverpool, remember, unbeaten since New Year's Day. 22 League and Cup matches, 19 wins, 3 draws. That's the sequence that Everton are up against. And a huge roar as the kick-off on a beautiful Wembley top. Steve Tingley, the groundsman, and his staff have worked hard again to produce this surface. That's Ratcliffe for Everton, Steve Nicol for Liverpool. Hansen. There's Beardsley. Little touch back. This is Nevin. Houghton. Watson. Two vastly experienced goalkeepers out there today, and they could have quite a part to play. Neville Southall and Bruce Grobbelaar. Nevin. Bracewell to Stephen. Good ball. Vanden Hauwe, the left back. Plays it in towards Nevin. Good skill by Pat Nevin. This is Tony Cottee, and it was Gary Ablett that conceded the corner, and Everton make the stronger start. Now they've got Watson up there for this. So too is McDonald, the right back. Sharp is hovering by the near post. Dangerous and hooked away by Steve McMahon. Just guarding the post. Forward by Ratcliffe. Nevin seeing plenty of the ball in this opening few minutes. Bracewell. And it was a good header by Steve Nicol. It had to be. Everton had a man over on the far side. This is a tight, tigerish start by Everton. Ratcliffe. But it's Whelan now for Liverpool to Nicol. McMahon, a former Evertonian himself, gets some predictable booing from the Everton fans. Just wonder what part the heat down there is going to play today. That was Watson with Aldridge. Sharp working well. Bracewell. Vandenhauw. Trevor Steven. Will the heat mean a lot of conserving of energy, do you think, Trevor, early on?
I think over the 90 minutes it'll help the game, because you know, Merseyside derbies are usually pretty hectic, aren't they? Not much space, but there's no way they're going to scamper around for 90 minutes closing down people, and it will give a little bit more space, I think, for the ball players, hopefully. And I mean, Everton have settled down very well. In a big match like this, it's always nice to get a few good early touches, and I think most of the Everton lads have had a good touch early on, which will help them.
This is Nicol looking for McMahon. Good through ball. He got away from Ratcliffe. Oh, and John Aldridge in a great position. And Liverpool have scored in their first attack. And John Aldridge, the man who missed a penalty here last season in the cup final, didn't take long to make up for it. The ball played through was for McMahon, and it caught Everton. Ratcliffe was out-manoeuvred there. The ball into Aldridge was superb, and his finish was clinical. It was a terrific run by McMahon from the middle of the field, because to get beyond Ratcliffe, who's one of the quickest in the game in that position, was some achievement. It opened up the play completely, and that was typical Liverpool. The early ball, and Aldridge finishing in style. 2 in the semi-final for John Aldridge, and now the opening goal at Wembley. And Everton were caught cold in defence. Here's Barnes. Staunton. What a platform Liverpool have given themselves now. Number 5, Whelan. Barnes again. Aldridge and Beardsley waiting in the centre. McMahon will shoot from here. Well, this is why Ian Rush is having to sit his life out on the substitutes bench. Aldridge is finishing with deadly accuracy at the moment.
It looked very easy, the chance. Kenny Dalglish, I'm sure, would know that as a striker, a ball coming across you is not easy to hit, but he just hit it side-footed, picked his spot, and really Neville Southall couldn't get anywhere near it.
There goes Houghton. And Aldridge in another good position in the centre. And Watson will have to cut this out. Nevin. Oh, well played. Sharp and Cotty moving to the right. Nevin takes on Hansen, gets brought down. Joe Worrell puts out a warning hand towards Alan Hansen. Colin Harvey barking there from the bench, knowing how important it is to hit back quickly in positions like this. Dave Watson has gone forward for the kick. Ratcliffe is telling Vandenhauw where to put it. Sharp's in there as well. And so is Grobbelaar. Got a feeling when we look back on that goal again that Steve Nicol, the Footballer of the Year, may have supplied that telling ball which put McMahon through. Certainly split the Everton defence. Staunton. Now that was late. Graham Sharp is the offender on Steve Staunton, and Joe Worrell will want a word here. Frustration by the Scottish international. Just slightly left the foot in, but it probably wasn't quite as bad as it may have looked. Well, what do you make of it then, Trevor? I mean, Liverpool off to the perfect start there. Ronnie Moran has his own way of celebrating.
Well, Everton must be a bit shell-shocked because they did settle down very well, and now they find themselves 1-0 down. I mean, whichever side scored, you did feel this sort of match, which is usually so even, an early goal would set it up for a spectacle. Now, Everton do have to push forward. Pat Nevin settled down very well, though, hasn't he? He's the one to catch the eye from the Everton lineup at the moment.
Hansen. This is Nicol. And given the chance to roll the ball around with the benefit of a one-goal lead, there's nobody more adept at that than Liverpool. I think the bench are a bit anxious about Steve Staunton after that injury. Kenny Dalglish is standing up, as he normally does anyway, just looking across. I think they actually thought about getting Barry Venison ready, because Staunton felt the full impact of Graham Sharp's foot there. Although when Sharp launched himself into it, he was going for the ball. Houghton, offside Aldridge. This time he moved too soon. Barry Venison has gone to sit down again, but they'll obviously be monitoring Staunton's condition. Free kick. Sharp on Hansen. Actually, Sharp always feels he does quite well against Alan Hansen. Aldridge's header. Houghton. Sheedy chasing back. Everton get the decision. Aldridge. Well, he was hoping to find Beardsley, and he too was just a shade impetuous with the challenge on Stephen. Nobody holds back in Merseyside derbies, not even at Wembley. Ratcliffe. Stephen. Sharp. Stephen again. Sheedy's out on the left. In support, Vanden Hauwe. Bracewell. And now McDonald brought into play. Good touch, Nevin. Sharp and Cottee hovering in the centre near the penalty spot. Danger here, Cottee. Sheedy's in the middle as well now. McDonald. Sharp's up. And the back header by Nicol. This is Houghton. Liverpool do seem to feel they can get behind the Everton back four in the centre there, Trevor. Everton's
defensive tactics are always to play very flat along the back four, and they do rely on Kevin Ratcliffe, his speed to sort of recover in case the offside trap breaks down. But since coming back from the injury sort of halfway through the season, he's not quite had that electric pace, I think, that he used to have, and on that occasion when Steve McMahon broke for the goal, he wasn't able to get across, and it does leave them open to that long through ball.
This is Stephen. again. Trevor Stephen back in the England picture now, named in the squad for the Rouse Cup. And he's forced a corner there, which will give Dave Watson the chance to come forward. Sheedy. Oh, Nevin in lots of space. Liverpool didn't close him down. Incidentally, the bookmakers got it right, because John Aldridge was the favourite to score the first goal here today, but this was an Everton attempt to cancel that out, and Pat Nevin had plenty of time to line this one up. Sheedy to McDonald. Sharp's there again, so was Hansen. Bracewell was following up, Houghton got to him first. And Liverpool playing very much on their counter-attack, and how threatening they look when they break out. Barnes. Oh, and that's Aldridge again! From Barnes. Beautiful ball this by John Barnes. He curled it in menacingly. And Aldridge, who's been doing well with his head too recently, Sharp with Hansen. There's no doubt who won that battle. Whelan. Seems to me now that Barnes is getting more and more of the ball. Staunton. Keeping it simple. Whelan. Tends to be the Liverpool way. McMahon. And now Nicol. There's always a man in a red shirt, it would seem, to receive the ball. Four waiting in the middle at the moment. McMahon. Whelan. And he's got Barnes in. Oh, too far ahead of Aldridge in the 6-yard box. But John Barnes, in this last 5 or 6 minutes, Trevor, has suddenly become a very dangerous customer.
A great through ball from Ronnie Whelan, but and the cross as well. What we didn't see was John Barnes go towards Ronnie Whelan in a sharp little 5-yard sprint, which took a couple of defenders, and then he checked and made the run, which Whelan found him inside the fullback.
Cotty's offside. He's found the £2 million price tag quite a burden on his own admission, Tony Cotty. He has scored 18 goals for Everton, but hasn't enjoyed the most consistent of first seasons at Goodison. But here's a man who's enjoyed a most consistent season, Aldridge. Beardsley. Houghton probing as always. Oh, Aldridge in again!
Well, again, twice Everton were caught so flat. First of all, the ball down the line to Aldridge, which was played back inside, and then here again, you see they hold the 18-yard box. See Ratcliffe just standing just on the 18-yard box. So when the through ball goes, they're caught so flat, and really John Aldridge, I think, so surprised to get the space, should have put it on target.
Now McDonald. Sharp, holding it up very well. Nevin. Cotty's in there, but Alan Hansen refuses to be ruffled. Barnes, and now Beardsley pulling away to the right. Still Barnes. Houghton's trying to stay onside in the middle, and Barnes goes alone. Ratcliffe brings him down. John Barnes suddenly saw the goal in his sights and thought he would try and break between the two defenders. And he gets caught here by number 4, Ratcliffe. Oh, probably an understatement on my part. Free kick to Liverpool. Barnes having a long look at this.
Well, there's gentle applause there, but it wasn't that far away. He whipped it over the wall well, but at the moment, once again, Kevin Ratcliffe having to bring John Barnes down. John Barnes did it exceptionally well because Ray Houghton ran offside and he decided to go it alone when Everton played the offside trap and nearly got through.
Here he is again, and once more Aldridge is on his way. Oh, it's McDonald's mistake. Southall will have to come to meet Aldridge. That's a foul by Gary Ablett on Graham Sharp. Well, there are a series of free kicks now, and you just wonder if something's going to come from one of them. By this stage of the season, they're pretty well rehearsed. This is McDonald. Sharp's looking there. Watson didn't get the overhead kick in. In fact, he caught the Liverpool player Ablett instead, rather than the ball. He was going for the sort of overhead scissor kick, Dave Watson. Didn't mean to catch Gary Ablett, as I think we shall see from this. Again, it was well knocked in by Graham Sharp on the far side. So about 10 minutes left in the first half, and Liverpool still lead by 1-0. Scored as early as the 4th minute by Aldridge, who might have had another after that. Well, this is the weather that Wembley would like to expect in May, but it's very warm for the players. Van den Hauw. And Sharp, who's moved around intelligently, trying to keep Everton moving, giving them a few alternatives. Cottage, the man they're trying to find now, but he's not been in the game much so far, and offside. Again, it was a narrow decision. Linesman on the far side, Mike Peck, flagging against John Aldridge. Ratcliffe. Sharp. Hansen to McMahon. Forward by Houghton, but it's too long for Beardsley. Colin Harvey there, who played in Everton's 1966 Cup-winning team here against Sheffield Wednesday. They came back from 2 down that day, so there's hope here for them. They've somehow got to break up this assured Liverpool pattern. Whelan knowing exactly where Nicol would be. There goes Houghton, but it's going to be a corner to Liverpool. Played back for Whelan. Oh, and Houghton darting in again here. Away by Sharp. Nicol's there. Point about the Footballer of the Year there, Steve Nicol, is that the last 4 winners of that trophy have all played on the losing side in the cup final. Neville Southall himself was one, Gary Lineker then the year after, then Clive Allen of Spurs and John Barnes last year. Wonder if Steve Nicol can reverse that trend. Nevin. Houghton. Do you detect any change in the pattern here at all, Trevor?
Well, I just think Liverpool at the moment have got a firm grip, getting more and more confident. I think what is helping their play as well is the confidence and distribution from the back. Steve Nicol, Stevie Staunton, and Alan Hansen, who, when you think he was out of the game for nearly a year, I think has been quite magnificent so far.
Here comes Van den Hauwe for Everton. To Sheedy. Bracewell. Sharp. The score in Scotland, by the way, at Hampden Park is 0-0 between the two Glasgow rivals, Rangers going for the treble and Celtic. Last year's double winners. It's no score up there. A lot of English players, of course, taking part in that cup final. And a match of some interest to Kenny Dalglish, I would think, too. His former club and his old colleague Graham Souness, the manager of Rangers. Here at Wembley, it's 1-0 to Liverpool, with 5 minutes left in the first half. And the Everton supporters start to make themselves heard. Here's Beardsley, though. Foul by Trevor Steven on Peter Beardsley. Staunton recovered from that early knock, it would seem. Looks for Aldridge. Offside. Steven. Nevin had quite a bright start on this wing, but he hasn't been in the game very much since. Number 7 here. And Liverpool again making it very difficult for Everton to find a way of getting forward. The gaps are being closed by the midfield players. Whelan was in there and so was Barnes. In turn, Steven doing a similar job for Everton. That's where it's being fought out. That's crisp and close in there, central midfield area. Bracewell, another one involved. Also, the Liverpool front men working hard to close down Everton in possession. Aldridge and Beardsley were both doing the job there. This is Nicol. Houghton. Beardsley. Oh, he's got away from Ratcliffe, but he drove him a bit wide. Sheedy's back. Goal kick. And a goal scorer at Hampden Park. Joe Miller has put Celtic ahead against Rangers. Expensive signing, little Joe, at the beginning of the season, and there were rumours he was going to be on his way from there, but seems to have done the job today. So the team chasing the treble in Scotland are a goal down. The team chasing the double in England are a goal up. And I'm told that down on the touchline bench, the temperature has risen to 90 degrees. Which is like Steven with the through ball. I was going to say it's more like Guadalajara than Wembley in terms of the temperature and the weather we've got here. Nevin. Forward by McDonald. Grobbelaar's coming out to meet Sharp. And this could be interesting. Sheedy's in a good position. Sheedy, Hansen blocked, and Grobbelaar must have been relieved. Certainly Hansen let him know what he thought about that particular advance. It was a typical Grobbelaar excursion, that. Steven. Nevin. minute left in the first half. Watson for Everton, who are pressing now. Stephen. Well, Grobbelaar hadn't had too much to do. I don't know whether he was getting a little bored back there, but he went a long way and was out of his ground for a few dangerous moments. Coming up to the end of the first half here at Wembley. 1-0 to Liverpool. There's Aldridge, the goal scorer. Houghton. Barnes. And Sharp was back to cover Nicol. Van den Hauwe. Cottee, a lone figure up front, being marked at the moment by Gary Ablett. But he slipped him and then had to watch as Liverpool covered in typical fashion. We're into stoppage time at the end of the first half. Houghton. And Watson had to do that. Aldridge was coming in on the blind side yet again. And Everton having to play their way out of a bit of a corner. Ronnie Whelan intercepts. Nicol. Liverpool's football so measured and well manicured. And it's their kind of surface too. Houghton. McMahon. Has always the chance that Everton might be able to do something if Liverpool make that sort of mistake, but they haven't made many. Stephen. Nevin's now trying his luck in the inside left position. He's got Cottee over on that side as well. Nevin. And again Nicol. Hard man to pass, isn't he, Trevor?
Well, Pat Nevin skipped round Alan Hansen, but there's always somebody there, isn't there, plugging up any gaps. And at the moment, Everton playing across and in front of the Liverpool defence rather than behind them. And at the moment, Liverpool totally controlling the game.
It's the Liverpool supporters who have been through so much tribulation and stress recently, who are joyful and buoyant because their team, thanks to John Aldridge's goal after just 4 minutes, lead in this all-Merseyside FA Cup final. And I wouldn't imagine you'd argue too much with that, Trevor.
Well, apart from those opening few minutes before, in fact, Liverpool got the goal, then really from then on they've got stronger and stronger. The Everton defence has really looked at sixes and sevens, very flat, and even when they're in possession of the ball, they've been just booting it sort of long balls and giving the ball away, whereas Liverpool look so composed, particularly Alan Hansen at the back, bringing it out from defence and keeping possession, and as the half has gone on, they have looked better and better. So at half-time, it's the Reds in front against the Blues by 1-0. Two little omens, I suppose, Trevor, for Everton. In the last Merseyside Cup final here, it was Everton who led 1-0 at half-time, and Liverpool came back and won 3-1. And I suppose you've also got to say that the last two finals have been won by the underdog, haven't they? Coventry and Wimbledon. Well, you agree with what you say, but Liverpool dominated the first half so much. You just wonder now what Colin Harvey's, perhaps he's reorganised tactically. Certainly, as Jim said, they've got to get the extra width. Kevin Sheedy wide on the left here really has never been able to get in the game. Tony Cottee up front has had very few touches, and really the only slight chances or glimmers they've had is those crosses to Graham Sharp. But they do have to get to the byline to get those crosses in. If they hit them in from 50 or 60 yards out, then Bruce Grobbelaar is going to say thank you very much, or they're not going to be near enough for Graham Sharp to get on target.
Just thinking of the options open to Colin Harvey, his two substitutes are both midfield players, Ian Wilson and Stuart McCall. He doesn't have a striker down there. He gave the two lads the vote over Wayne Clark. But if Everton don't turn this round, I would imagine we'll see one or the other on the pitch. if not both. And again, in this heavy atmosphere, high temperatures, there'll be times when they try and slow it down, Liverpool in particular. Van den Hauw. Nicol. Oh, Ratcliffe made another mistake. Beardsley. Ratcliffe had a long period out with injury. It happened in a cup tie against Sheffield Wednesday, and I just wonder whether he's quite as razor sharp as he used to be. Mind you, I'm talking at high standards, because he was probably the quickest player in Europe at that time in that position. Hansen with the kick. Barnes pulling away from Neil McDonald, the number 2, who dived in a bit there. That wasn't really a fullback's tackle. And Neil McDonald, rather than standing up and jockeying Barnes, dived in a bit and conceded a free kick in a dangerous position. Staunton and Barnes are the two players near the ball. Aldridge has got both arms up in the centre. Beardsley is with him. Away by Van den Hauw, only as far as Steve McMahon. Nice ball to Houghton. Offside flag is up here.
I think Neil McDonald quite relieved to see nothing come of that free kick, because just going out of the picture there he is jogging along, but it was a irresponsible tackle really, because John Barnes running away from the goal, and I mean, he had to clatter him to get to the ball, which was still a couple of yards away.
Just a reminder that should Everton equalise, extra time is scheduled for today. And if there was a replay, it will be delayed until Thursday, June the 8th, nearly 3 weeks away. But Liverpool will try to make sure that isn't necessary. Ratcliffe. Whelan to McMahon. Hansen. Staunton's got Barnes to his left, but it's a bit optimistic. Steve Staunton, the youngest player on the pitch at 20, already a Republic of Ireland international, comes from a big family down there in Southern Ireland. Indeed, cup final day, one when families and friends very heavily numbered in the crowd, relations of the players. Alan Hansen is on the ball now. He's making his 14th Wembley appearance for Liverpool today. Nicol. It's a good-looking ball. And it came off Watson, and Southall couldn't save it. It's a corner. Beardsley was the player who was hovering around, and Watson not too sure with that clearance. Again, the delivery in by Liverpool, tempting their strikers and taunting the Everton defenders. Nicol. Houghton. They're lined up in the centre there. Beardsley, Barnes, Aldridge. It is Hansen. Running off the ball now is Whelan. John Barnes. Staunton sprinting outside him. Aldridge with Ratcliffe. Aldridge looked at the referee. There was a loud shout from the Liverpool fans. Nothing given against Ratcliffe. Nevin has switched to the left. Oh, Everton in trouble here. It's Beardsley. Aldridge to his left, but Beardsley could go alone. Saved by Southall. Here comes Ray Houghton.
There was a classic example. I think there was a time Kevin Ratcliffe would have caught Peter Beardsley. And again, it was an example of Everton in possession themselves and not having the composure of like Stevie Nicol, Alan Hansen, and use the ball. They got themselves into trouble. There was about 3 Everton players within 5 yards of each other, and suddenly Liverpool had an attack.
Beardsley. And still Beardsley. Well, that's 2 opportunities in a minute for Beardsley. The first one, I think, some credit to Southall, because he did stand up well and block Beardsley's view of the goal. And I think that may be substantiated by what we're going to see here, because he was clear of the defender, Ratcliffe, but Southall good in 1-against-1s like that, save with his feet. Terry Darricott next to the Everton boss there. Stephen. Vanden Hauwe. Delivery from the back, as you said earlier, Trevor. Nothing like the quality of Liverpool's, is it?
No, that was the classic example. I mean, he had plenty of time under no pressure. A Liverpool defender in those situations would have carried the ball, committed one of the defenders, and put a quality cross in.
Just wonder whether Liverpool's only danger here might be getting a little too casual, a little too complacent. Hansen certainly was on the ball then. All too often in football we've seen teams apparently dominating games and then conceding a goal. It might happen with Stephen. Staunton, a good recovery. McMahon. Oh, that's a good bit of play by Aldridge. He was unceremoniously dealt with by Watson, but play goes on. Houghton has the advantage. Players right and left for him, but he doesn't find Barnes. The Everton fans feeling that they've had a good 5 minutes, certainly by comparison with what went before, suggesting that the game is not over by any means. And there goes Cottee. As he showed in the CMOD Cup final, Tony Cottee only needs a half chance. So far he's been denied that today. Barnes, that's a good ball to Whelan. And now Beardsley. Determination, McMahon. Full of it. Off, the ball was out. Kenny Dalglish making his feelings clear. 10 minutes gone in the second half of the FA Cup final. Liverpool 1, Everton 0. But an interesting and important part of the game, this. Everton have got into the Liverpool half more in the last few minutes. Is there anything on the end of it? Sheedy. Or will Liverpool counter, as they have so often, and open the play up at the other end? Nicol takes on Vanden Hauwe. First one way, then the other. 3 to his left. Not a good ball, and Everton themselves can break. And Nevin wanted to play that through, and he has to Cottee. McDonald, now Cottee again. Bit of space for him. Sharp in the middle, so is Nevin. McDonald's ball in, Houghton's header out. McMahon. Barnes. Now can he pick up pace? He's got Aldridge and Beardsley to his right. Watson to take on. Still Barnes, and he has taken him on.
Well, not much more we could say, was there? I think it was all there to watch. Once he gets in those situations, pick the ball up just on the halfway line, and he beats people so well to create the shooting opportunity. Here he is on his left foot, just dragged it past the post.
And now it's Everton with Sheedy. This is Nevin. Sharp tries to get there. This is Vanden Hauwe. In again for Stephen. There's going to be an Everton substitution. Stuart McCall, expensive signing from Bradford City last summer, scored the winner against Wimbledon in one of our live match of the day cup ties. Good header by Aldridge to Beardsley. Now Beardsley takes on Watson, and that's a good challenge by the defender, but it's a bad pass by Ratcliffe. And it's Aldridge now to McMahon. Barnes. Got a feeling that Bracewell's the player who's going to come off. But Joe Worrell allows the play to go on. Staunton to Whelan. Ablett. Well, there have been chances here for Liverpool to kill the game off early in the second half. As yet, they haven't succeeded. That's a foul by Ratcliffe on Beardsley. Now the substitution can be made. Off goes Paul Bracewell. Had a hard time in that midfield. And McCall gets a big welcome from the Evertonians. Keen to see how he fares against McMahon in there. Stephen. Won again by Houghton. Whelan to McMahon. Barnes has made a through run. Watson's there. McCall is wearing number 14. Nevin looks for Stephen. Staunton, nice and tidy. Houghton leaves it to the captain. Now it's Beardsley. Aldridge coming close. McCall's gone straight into Bracewell's midfield position. This is Sheedy. Oh, good touch by Sharp to Cottee. Now there's a chance, perhaps. Free kick's given. McMahon and Hansen closed in on Cottee. And the referee said foul. Now then, here is a glimmer of hope for Everton. Sheedy, who has in the past scored many times from here. It's pretty central. Grobbelaar checking on the wall. That Grobbelaar's a couple of yards off his line. Sheedy into the wall. Good blocking by Liverpool. It isn't away yet. McDonald. Vanden Hauwe. Little spell here for Everton. 15 minutes gone in the second half. Possibly their best spell. Ratcliffe. Watson's hovering on the edge of the area. He's stayed up. Nevin. And still Watson stays in the danger area. Vanden Hauwe. Didn't get the ball in, though. Houghton blocked and Nicol covered. Any thoughts on that substitution, Trevor?
Well, Stuart McCall, who already signed for Bradford City, there he is. He will make more attacking situations. Hasn't been able to settle down after sort of a lot of money paid for him, 850,000. Not really shown the true form that he had at Bradford City, but he could make himself an instant hero today, couldn't he?
Well, not with a pass like that, he won't. This is Houghton. Aldridge has gone to the right and Barnes has gone to the left. Beardsley. And still Beardsley. And that was McCall, as you say, a busy performer. Got in there where it mattered. Sheedy. And that long ball by Ratcliffe is seeking out Nevin, but won't find him. It's a hard slog up there for Sharp and Cottee. There hasn't been a lot of opportunity, but Gary Ablett had to save Liverpool there. And maybe the chance is going to come for Everton. Trevor Steven has gone across with Sheedy this time. Sharp and Watson are waiting. Sheedy, Grobbelaar, and a very confident piece of play there by Peter Beardsley, who just knocked the ball back into Steve McMahon's path to clear. It remains 1-0 to Liverpool, but not quite as conclusive as it looked a few minutes ago. I understand that 17 Wembley finals have ended 1-0 in the FA Cup. Most popular score in the history of the FA Cup since it came here in 1923. And here's Cottee. Free kick. Backing in. Having said that, Everton did draw 1-1 at Anfield when the teams met earlier in the season. And Joe Worrell, the referee, will remember that because he awarded Everton a penalty that day. Sharp. Good header against Hansen, that. McCall. Sheedy. And Sharp with Grobbelaar, and another one-handed acrobatic leap by Grobbelaar, which this time finished the way he wanted it to. Dave Watson putting everything into it back there, trying to hold the fort and also urge Everton forward whenever he can. And another Hansen header goes astray. Good tackle by Staunton on Nevin. This is Barnes. And Barnes begins to pick up pace away from Nevin. He's got McDonald to beat as well, though, and there's not much on for him there. He has to come all the way back and find Staunton. Into Whelan. I think the heat beginning to restrict the number of those darting runs that Liverpool like to make off the ball. This is Nicol. Foul. Hansen on Cottee. 20 minutes gone in the second half at Wembley. Liverpool 1, Everton 0. That's been the way of it since the 4th minute, when John Aldridge scored. But the Everton supporters have not given up hope, and neither has the team. Van den Hauwe. Again, they look for Sharp. Cottee's in! Good interception, Hansen. In fact, Nevin was in there too. Just wonder if one or two of the Liverpool forward players might be tiring a bit. Ian Rush has been warming up. It isn't bad when you can bring on a man who costs nearly £3 million, is it? This is Houghton. I would think Kenny Dalglish might appreciate a fresh approach up there. Injection of pace. Whelan. Nicol. Barnes. Steve Nicol sufficiently self-assured to get away with that. And Staunton on the other flank with room in which to work. Nickel again. McMahon. This is Whelan. Barnes. And Houghton's closing in here. Just a leg out from Vanden Hauwe. Still Houghton. Couldn't pull it back for Barnes. Whelan. Nickel. Good ball for Beardsley. And still... And it wouldn't run for Barnes. Southall doing enough. Brilliantly hooked back by McMahon, mind you. Whelan. Liverpool supporters urging them forward. Again, Beardsley threatening to unlock the Everton defence. Nickel. Sheedy right back there to help. Now it's Ratcliffe. In fact, both the Liverpool substitutes are warming up. In this heat, it's going to be, I would think, very much a 13-man game. This is McCall. Sheedy. Ablett with Sharp here. And Sharp's knockback was good, but Trevor Stephen a whisker away from it. Linesman happy that Staunton kept that in. This is Watson. And Ablett, well taken. Game possibly a little bit bogged down at the moment, Trevor.
Well, Liverpool created that opening just now, which lulled them out of, what, a 10-minute spell when they became casual more than anything, whether it was the sun or just a little bit of complacency. And then perhaps the sight of two substitutes warming up stemmed them into another little burst of attacking. But, you know, while it's 1-0, Everton, just that little break, can always get back into the game. And up to now, Liverpool should be more than that 1 goal ahead, but it is still very sort of tightly balanced, and one little mistake could cost them dear.
Yes, many is the Merseyside derby that's finished in a draw. Barnes header to Aldridge. The teams drew here in the League Cup final a few years ago, in their first ever all Merseyside Wembley meeting. Here's Hansen, one of the survivors of that. Well played. Nickel. In again to Houghton, who's always threatening. Barnes is a long way away on the left, but he's the freest player. Well found. And brings Southall down to the near post. Good distribution by Ray Houghton there, and John Aldridge waiting on the 6-yard line. Liverpool don't put many players in there for corners. Prefer to play it short and pick up the passing game again. Barnes. Houghton. Offside, Barnes. Now, Houghton delivered that quite beautifully, and Barnes was perfectly ready here with his left foot. It was slightly deflected off the defender anyway, which made it an even better save.
Kenny Dalglish here, obviously deciding Liverpool do need a G-up.
Yes, the goal scorer is going off. John Aldridge applauded. Going off this year in rather different circumstances to last time round against Wimbledon, because this time his team are a goal up. And a big reception for the fellow who scored 2 goals in this Merseyside FA Cup final 3 years ago. Kenny Dalglish congratulates his goal scorer today, but Ian Rush back from Juventus and now back at Wembley. Now the pace of Rush may trouble Watson and Ratcliffe. This is Barnes. Ratcliffe was covering behind Watson, who intercepted. He saw Rush make his run. Old adversaries, of course. Sharp. Tricks Ablett. Cover from Whelan. Goal kick. What about Ian Rush then, Trevor?
Well, as you say, he's not a bad substitute to bring on, is he? But, I mean, I think he will admit, what with illness and injury, he's never as yet recaptured the form of when he departed to Juventus, and I'm sure nothing more he'd love than just get on the score sheet. We remember that 1986 Cup final when he scored 2 against Everton, and who knows what he'll do in the next quarter of an hour.
This is McMahon. You can see Kenny Dalglish, hands in pockets, patrolling anxiously along that touchline area, or not touchline, but where the bench is. As he realises that Liverpool still need the second goal to lock this cup final up. This is Whelan. Houghton. And they wouldn't particularly want to go to extra time. 2 league matches still to come in their quest for the championship. Staunton. And that wasn't very decisive. This is Nevin. The chance is still here for Everton. McCall. Stephen lost his boot in that melee, but this is Gary Ablett, and he needs to be careful here with Crotty. Good pass. Houghton. Now Rush has made a run right to left, and there he goes, but McDonald saw him coming. .15 minutes to go in the second half. Liverpool 1, Everton 0. I used to say Liverpool comes strong in the last 15 minutes of a game. Well, it's Everton who must achieve that today to force extra time. Neil McDonald was injured there, Trevor, in that challenge on Ian Rush.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if he gets up okay, because I've got a feeling Kevin Sheedy, who was doubtful earlier in the week, might well be replaced by Ian Wilson. Ian Wilson is wide left midfield player. He scored in the league game, last league game on Monday night, and I think with the weather it is, it's well worth bringing on the extra pair of fresh legs in this last quarter of an hour. They need a lift, as Colin Harvey is suggesting on the bench there, and I would think Kevin Sheedy would be the one to come off, but of course he's also very aware that right back Neil McDonald has just taken a knock, so wait a couple of minutes, see what happens there before perhaps bringing Ian Wilson on for Sheedy.
Nevin back to McDonald, in fact. Now McMahon doing some defensive duty. Ian Rush there is still tied with Dixie Dean on the 19 goals in Merseyside derbies. Once scored 4, I remember, against Everton in one match, Ian Rush. But he wants one just to pip Dixie, which would make him something of a legend on Merseyside, as his predecessor was. There's Gary Ablett. And this time it's a foul against Rush, and Dave Watson will appreciate the chance to go forward. But Everton are going to make their second substitution. Trevor Brooking absolutely spot on. Kevin Sheedy is the player going off. And we have a Wembley first here. Ian Wilson, the former Leicester player, has never played here before. Nevin. Staunton. The crowd appealed. Referee wasn't interested. Barnes trying to win it back for Liverpool, and he didn't quite make that. And all the red shirts have had to come back. Everton are pressing forward again. Aiming at Watson, who might be spending more and more time up there now. Nickel for Liverpool. Vanden Houw just had a little nip at Nickel there as the ball went away. Linesman saw it, actually. Joe Worrell hasn't had to deal with too much in the way of untoward tackling. And he's just giving it the calm down to Pat van den Hauwe. Got about 12 minutes to go here in the second half anyway. Everton hoping to force extra time on a tiring afternoon in temperature still in the 80s. And driven forward by Nicol, but it'll only be a present really to Dave Watson. Rush wasn't right up there. Now Sharp can win that. Only as far as Ablett. Whelan, good pass. Houghton. Wondering where Barnes was, but he was a bit too close. This is Staunton. Houghton again. I've got to say that Houghton's played awfully well for Liverpool. One of the players who's really caught the eye today. Former West Ham, Fulham and Oxford player. Now McCall finds Sharp, but this match is not over yet. Everton have still got opportunity, especially if Liverpool show signs of tiring. We're into the last 10 minutes, mind you. This is Stephen. McCall. And it might work for Sharp.
Well, one of the few occasions when Everton midfield player has played a positive forward ball, and there he is, clipped it through, and Graham Sharp, not realising perhaps he had quite that space, perhaps a flicked header towards the far post might have been better, but Bruce Grobbelaar, as usual, looking very casual, it came towards him.
Nevin. Stephen. Chances here, McCall's there, and Grobbelaar wasn't sure. And it was Ian Wilson who got closest to the loose ball. The two subs were both involved in there. Grobbelaar had an escape, not for the first time, offside.
Just shows you the difference by getting the cross in from the byline makes, because it's whipped in, comes from that different angle, and it caused all sorts of problems for the defence. That's the first time so far they've managed to get to the byline.
And it was Stephen, really, wasn't it? Watson's up there with Sharp. That was Watson. And Liverpool has stretched. It's van den Hauwe. Back in again. Sharp's up there. Danger. Nevin! If he'd made contact there, it would possibly have been 1-1.
I think that's what you call handbags from 7 yards, yeah? This was the earlier cross. Trevor Stephen whips it in, and the hand going up from Stuart McCall just put Bruce Grobbelaar off, but it was a very good quality cross.
And they're quite happy to send it back to goalkeeper Grobbelaar. John Aldridge and Kenny Dalglish unable to affect it much from there. And Everton haven't given up hope. Nevin looks for Cottee. Sharp's in the middle, and so is Big Dave Watson, now playing as a full-time forward. Nevin again. And still it's Nevin. Peels for handball, referee says play on. Nevin again. Watson wants it long. He's got past Staunton. Sharp's there. So is Nicol. It's an Everton corner with 2 minutes to go. Now, can Watson or Sharp get on the end of this? Sharp's flick. They appeal for handball again, but it's a corner again. They're feeding it in. Ian Wilson talking to Joe Worrell. All he'll get is a corner. They're feeding it into the near post where Liverpool don't like it. Sharp's the player to flick it on. Watson's coming in behind him. McDonald is also there. Wilson, no. Behind him was Staunton. Stephen. And still Watson stays up. And that's not the sort of ball... That's the sort of ball Phil Thompson wanted and Kenny Dalglish, but not what Everton would have expected from that position. And it's very tense down there. We make it about a minute of normal time. And here we have an intrusion that we don't need. And the players doing their best to rid us of that offender. Well, Liverpool were holding their breath a bit there. Grobbelaar has a chance now to clear the lines. Everton have certainly had the better of the last half hour, as you would expect for a team who've been a goal down for so long. Watson heads it forward to Cottee. Sharp. Chances here. Nevin. And outside him a chance too. And Grobbelaar. And it's got in. Steve McCall was in there. And Everton have equalised, and there are people on the pitch. And it came with seconds left of the 90 minutes. And the stewards have got a full-time job on now. Grobbelaar thought he had that. And Steve McCall, the substitute, scores the goal. Stuart McCall scores the goal. That brings Everton level and almost certainly forces extra time.
That was quite amazing, wasn't it? They paid the penalty, Liverpool, just sitting back these last 20 minutes, holding on to that 1-0 lead. Good run by Pat Nevin. Davy Watson it was who crossed it, and Stuart McCall pounced on the slip-up.
And there it is. It's extra time in the All-Merseyside Cup final. And Stuart McCall scores in the dying seconds for Everton. A quite extraordinary finish to the 90 minutes. Liverpool looked as though they were going to hang on, but Everton caught them in the last attack. Well, I'm trying to think of a Wembley goal in a cup final that came as late as that. You look back to that Alan Sunderland winner, don't you, for Arsenal against Manchester United. But this one has forced extra time. Here's Whelan. Nicol. McCall, the goal scorer. Cottee. Here's Nevin. Now, is the psychological balance now with Everton? Cottee. Oof, maybe it is. Well, McCall's goal-scoring record since he came to Goodison has been very, very poor. In fact, the one we saw against Wimbledon was only his second goal for the club. But he'll remember the one he's got today even longer than that. Only his third for Everton. Here's Cottee again. McDonald. This is Wilson. Vandenhouw. McDonald again. Offside flags up.
And not surprisingly, it's Everton who have got their tails up a little bit. Very difficult side like Liverpool, when you've had most of the game for an hour, and then you've sat left a little bit, holding on to your 1-0 lead, conceded a late equaliser. To regain the initiative is very, very difficult.
Well, that's what Liverpool have got to strive to do. That's Ian Rush up there, Houghton. Whelan's to his left, it's still Houghton. Bit of fun from Southall. Well, the cup was up there waiting to be presented when McCall stepped in for Everton. Here's Nicol. And there goes Rush. Dave Watson now back in his defensive position, having spent a lot of time in attack as Everton fought to save the game. In fact, it was his cross that brought the goal. Forward by Venison, then a touch by Houghton. This is Whelan, Beardsley, Rush, Barnes. Got to start all over again now, really, Liverpool. Nicol. That comes off McDonald. Well, our watch said 44 minutes, 57 seconds when that goal went in. Couldn't have been closer. Nicol. Oh, there's Rush in there. Rush! Goal! Ian Rush! Liverpool back in front. Into extra time. And Ian Rush, scorer of 2 against Everton here 3 years ago, swivels on that, shakes off Ratcliffe and beats Southall. A typical Rush effort, and it's come at a timely moment for Liverpool.
Great piece of opportunism, but you have to say again that he was very loosely marked. Great ball in again from Steve Nicol. Doesn't matter if he's playing on the right or the left, he can still clip those telling passes into the penalty area.
I think it was Desmond Lynham who forecast a 2-2 draw here today, and that's what Everton will be chasing now. It's 2-1 to Liverpool, and their fans are celebrating. So Colin Harvey's team enjoyed parity for no more than 5 minutes in playing time. Rush's first goal since the beginning of February, that. Here he is again. Barnes. Rush. Offside, Barnes. Steve Nicol has made both Liverpool's goals with passes of the highest quality. Put McMahon through so that Aldridge could get the first, and then supplied the ball from the left for Rush to get the second. Here's Van den Hauw. And there's Hansen. Well, there were many who felt an absorbing, exciting final would do a lot to restore the spirits. And certainly the way it turned round there, that's what we've now got on our hands. It would have been a little bit of an anticlimax, perhaps, looking back, had Liverpool won 1-0 with a goal scored so early. But now it's 2-1, and we're 7 minutes into extra time. Liverpool fans singing again. Barnes. Nevin. Stephen. Van den Hauw. Forward by Ratcliffe. Sharp. Danger here for Cottee. Venison was back. Fresh player. Well, a lot's been said about the resilience and the spirit and the morale of Liverpool. The City, of course, as well as the team in recent times, but the team, having been denied the cup in such agonising circumstances, have now turned the game round again. Long kick by Grobbelaar, and here's Beardsley and Rush chasing. And they're happy once more. Barnes, all good running from midfield by Ray Houghton. Oh, they just about got him in the other side of Ratcliffe. And he's still got it. Now he wants support in the middle. Or coming up perhaps from Venison. Not a good ball by him. McMahon. Venison came on for Staunton, just to confirm that substitution. In fact, all four subs used now. Now, will Liverpool be able to contain the lead this time? Or can Everton drag those weary feet towards a second equaliser? Ten minutes of extra time played. Stephen. Oh, he's going to be a bit tight there against Beardsley, but Stephen's had an excellent match. Van den Hauw. McCall. Oh, what a brilliant run by McCall! Picked off his toe by Ray Houghton. Four minutes left in the first period of extra time. Liverpool 2, Everton 1. And the balance of power back with Steve McMahon's team. Push. Ablett on Sharp. Well, Colin Harvey's seen his team save this match once in what would have had to have been their was the last attack of the 90 minutes, but then go behind again almost as soon as extra time started. Ratcliffe. Watson's up. Here's McCall again. Oh, yes! It's 2-2. And it's the same player. Stuart McCall. Dropping it wide of Grobbelaar for the second equaliser. Headed out first of all, but look how McCall got that down, and the perfect volley with the right foot, Trevor.
Well, he's not having a bad afternoon, is he, since coming on? Alan Hansen heads it out. It drops and loops in. Bruce Grobbelaar never quite going to get there. And again, we're all 2-2, and who knows what the remainder of this extra time is going to bring forth.
Well, this morning, Stuart McCall wasn't even sure he would be in the 13. There were suggestions that Wayne Clark might be on the bench. He'd only ever scored 2 goals for the club before today. And now he's twice revived his team in this FA Cup final. Houghton. Whelan. McMahon. Barnes. Rush! Goal! 3-2 Liverpool. Ian Rush gets his second. And this now becomes one of the most dramatic FA Cup finals of recent times. Beautiful ball by Barnes, deftest of headers by Rush, steered it wide of Southall, and Rush repeats his feat of 3 years ago with 2 goals to put Everton's heads in their hands. Ian Rush has now, more than that, beaten Dixie Dean's great old record. He's now got 21 goals in Merseyside derby matches. But here are Everton again. Stevens ploughing forward. Well, will this go down as one of the classics? As Trevor says, the goals are being scored partly because of, by these 2 teams' high standards, sloppy defensive play to an extent, but the drama is unabated. Ian Rush here, scoring the kind of goal which one came to expect of him, in the right place. Doesn't get as many with his head as he would with his feet, but always on the prowl. And John Barnes, the perfect delivery. He was between the 2 defenders, and Southall was wrong-footed. So Ian Rush goes down in Merseyside folklore, and Evertonians will say that to beat the record of Dixie Dean is an achievement in itself. But what it means for those supporters is that Liverpool in this cup final have now been in the lead 3 times. Twice they've been pulled back. Can they hold it now for 15 minutes? John Aldridge bites his nails. He scored the first goal, and it's funny, isn't it? He was a few seconds away from becoming the man whose goal won the FA Cup, and now he won't have that privilege. It may go to his look-alike Ian Rush. Extraordinary scenes, extraordinary turnaround in the match. Fans shouting, attack, attack, attack. Not sure how much Kenny Dalglish will go along with that, because they've been caught out twice. Van den Hauwe, Sharp coming in. Van den Hauwe again. Out by Ablett. And this is Nicol. Well, there's going to be some tired limbs out there in the second period of extra time. Here's Rush again, who, of course, now is on a hat-trick, and we haven't had one of those in the FA Cup final since Stan Mortenson's days. Here's Houghton. In fact, McCall's on a hat-trick as well, so either one of them could record that first 3-goal achievement in an FA Cup final since 1953. Rushy is back is the shout. Well, if ever Liverpool needed Aldridge and Rush, today was the day. Aldridge's goal threatened to win it. Rush's goals might still. Sharp. But not if Everton have their way, because don't rule out a third equaliser. Must be agony down there on the bench for both sets of coaches, really. Wilson. Doesn't it say a tremendous amount again, though, about the powers of recovery that have been part of the Liverpool tradition for 25 years? They just never know when they're beaten. And several generations of Liverpool players have been responsible for that thread which has run through the club down the years. This is Barnes. But there again, we could say the same about Everton today, because they're the team that have technically come from behind twice. It's just that Liverpool, psychologically, have lifted themselves each time to go back in front. It's been a very emotional time, and it's now become that sort of match. Beardsley. And the shirt-sleeve fans enjoying it rather more than Kenny Dalglish, I suspect. A lot hinges on that for him. Nicol. Well, we've said how hot it must be down there. Just look at Kenny Dalglish. He hasn't taken that jacket off. Must be sweltering in the full tracksuit. Here's Hansen. Oh, good touch. It was Beardsley to Barnes. Now it's Rush again. And here's Houghton with a chance for 4-2. What a good stop by Neville Southall. He kept his team in the game there for sure, from Ray Houghton. Well, this would have killed Everton off for sure. And Southall saves with his feet. Barry Venison, McCall. Five minutes gone in the second period of extra time. Liverpool lead Everton by 3-2 after the score was 1-1 at 90 minutes. Here's Stephen, Wilson. What a credit the game has become, though, to Merseyside and to football in general. And there's the drive from Sharp. And you could still see more goals coming, Trevor.
I think you could. Probably thinking at the end of 90 minutes, what, with a minute to go and Liverpool 1-0 up. I bet there's a few people who thought, I'll just miss this rush at the end of the game and I'll shoot off early. I'm going to think they're going to be in for a nasty shock, aren't they, John?
Absolutely. Sometimes happens, doesn't it? You think it's all over, and football, being the perverse game it is and the wonderful game it is, can always surprise you. But it was the sort of match we needed in a way, wasn't it? Full now of twists and turns, when for so long it had looked, not a formality exactly, but reasonably predictable for Liverpool. Here's Beardsley. McMahon. Whelan. The families, too, who came today to test whether they could face football again, will, I'm sure, be able to enjoy this. And that's most important. Well, I daren't rule Everton out. We're well into the second period of extra time. I don't remember a 3-3 draw in an FA Cup final at Wembley, but for what we've seen today, anything's possible. The news from Scotland, by the way, amidst all the excitement here, is that Rangers have not completed the treble. Celtic have won the Scottish Cup 1-0. Goal scorer Joe Miller. So here's McCall. Stephen! Kenny Dalglish's old club have won the cup in Scotland. Can Colin Harvey prevent him from completing an unusual double here in England? What do you think, Trevor?
Well, I'm loath to suggest anything because as soon as I do, a goal will go in, John. But I think you've got to favour Liverpool at this late stage. Dave Watson was pushed up in the last few minutes, wasn't he? Those 90 minutes that made a difference.
There goes Rush, and Southall's made a long run out. And it has to be proved the right decision. Barnes. Now Liverpool are creating gaps because Everton have to push on, throw players forward. And it could easily finish 4-2, as well as 3-3. Rush. Now it's opening up again for Liverpool. It's Beardsley with Barnes to his left. Barnes takes on McDonald. Good tackle. Nevin. Nicol. Well, play on, says Joe Worrell. He thinks Steve Nicol played for that, and I happen to think the referee's right. Trevor Stephen was going about his business, and Nicol made it look as though he blocked him. Cotty, McCall. Rush to Beardsley. And still Beardsley. Corner. I think Peter Beardsley felt he might have released that on second thoughts. He acknowledged it to John Barnes. Well, 5 minutes now of extra time left. If Everton were to make it 3-3, we'd have a replay on the 8th of June. If Liverpool can make it 4-2, then it will be over. Just look at the view they've got there. Barnes. Venison. McMahon. What a good match he's had. Rush is waiting in the middle. Stephen. Rush and McCall will take the headlines possibly, Trevor, but there's been some good midfield play, hasn't there? Trevor Stephen, Ray Houghton, Steve McMahon.
I think there's a lot of good individual performances. Not one outstanding player. Everyone's contributed at different stages of the match, and it'd be, I think, wrong to single out too many individuals because it's been a great match.
Well, that was what was required today to give football the lift that it badly needs just at the moment. And indeed to raise the spirits of many of those watching. here in extra time, it's been like one of those old-fashioned matches of 20 or 30 years ago when defences opened up and goals came aplenty, rather than the more sterile 1-0s that we see perhaps more recently. Now, can John Barnes add to that total? He's kept the ball in, he's got Rush in the middle. Still Barnes. And Southall makes the save, as he's made several. Barnes deprived there. Venison. Rush. It can still work for Barnes here. Ratcliffe in the way. Beardsley! Good save! He touched that. Well, in my view, he did anyway. And it would appear Joe Worrell goes along with that. Barnes short to Nicol, and the atmosphere in the stadium is one to behold at the moment. More of that in a second. Nicol. Flags up on this side for offside against Rush, I think. The referee's given a corner because he hasn't seen the linesman. There's going to be an offside here. There are people having come in the most orderly fashion, I must say, right down to the area behind the stewards. We hope there won't be a pitch invasion, even though it would be a jubilant one. But that might be tempting fate a little, because there are so many fans who've moved down, and Wembley's going to need all the stewards it's got to keep the pitch clear. Everton haven't given up, though. Sharp. And again Sharp. Watson's up there. Gather there are 1,200 stewards on duty here today. This is Nicol. And have Everton at last been put into the position of runners-up? Has Kenny Dalglish's team finally laid their hands on the FA Cup? Yes, they have. Or have they? The crowd thought it was the final whistle. Joe Worrell did point to the centre, but I think he's about 30 seconds early, and I don't think that is the end of the game. Quite a few of the players thought it was, because Joe was pointing towards the centre, and that's premature. That, although what it might do is perhaps help the stewards to control what now is in danger of happening. If they sent them a bit further back, might prevent it from getting out of hand at the very end. In fact, we make it about 35 seconds still to play, but Everton must know how close it is now. The game's going on with a gentleman, an official on the pitch in a white shirt. He's obviously going to play outside right. Here's Sharp. McCall. And they're still on the pitch, the official. McCall. Foul from behind, Beardsley. That was panic. Now, can Everton do it again? We are now in stoppage time. Well, there's no Sheedy there now, of course. It's going to be Stephen. Can he make it 3-3 and force a replay? Or can MacDonald? Well, it was close. From Neil MacDonald. And there were a few people reaching for their diaries then. This would, I imagine, be Everton's last chance. Grobbelaar had it covered. Whistles all round the stadium. And Liverpool have won the FA Cup, the first leg of the double, and perhaps softened the pain that so many of their supporters have been through recently. And in a fine, dramatic final, surely lifted the spirits of a whole city and of the game of football. Cup winners for the fourth time, and they hope that the championship is still to come to give them their second double. That may well depend on Arsenal. We shouldn't overlook that. But for the moment, after the tribulations and the commiseration of the last 5 weeks, there are smiles back on Liverpudlian faces. And even though there will be those who feel it's all a bit too soon, one day, sooner or later, this famous club had to get back on its feet, and the players had to go back to do what they do best, and they've certainly achieved that today.